How about now? There's no reason it shouldn't be on. Okay, there we
Yes.
go.
Woohoo!
I couldn't imagine.
Hi, guys. We're working now. Now you can hear us. Woohoo! Woohoo!
That only took 4 minutes.
Yay! Sorry about that. Who knows why? Who knows why? It's always a deal whenever you go live, right? So, welcome, guys. How's it going? Surprise! I decided that I was feeling good enough this morning that when I woke up, I wanted to do a live with you guys. So, yay! So, this is just going to be a little informal. I'm not going to actually complete anything, which sometimes that's people like that the best. So, we're just going to play around with PFS mixed media products. Actually, we're going to see how they react and play well with other products, and also some things that you can do with them that are unique to Picket Fence Studios mixed media products. So my name is Nicole Petersen. Welcome aboard. We're here at our house in South Louisiana in my little video annex room. It's a little bitty tiny room, but jam packed with like all the video stuff that goes along with going live, right? The media products. Yes, awesome, guys. So if you have never been live with us before, we use StreamYard, which allows us to stream on 2 or 3 different platforms at a time. So for me to see your name on Facebook, there's a little button that's going to ask you to accept the permission for StreamYard to show your name. It doesn't really ask you for any information, I don't think. It just allows StreamYard to show your name to us. So if you would like me to see your name, that would be great. That way I'm not calling you, hey, Facebook user, yes to that answer, to that question, or, whatever you like is fine. I'll answer questions no matter if I know your name or not, right? You can just say, hey, you. So hello, Joy Moody from Moody Crafter. I like your name. All right, guys. So we're going to be. So I'm Nicole Petersen, the owner and designer here at Picket Fence Studios. My husband Matt just left the room. You might hear some dogs barking. We do have 3 poodles. I don't think. Hopefully tonight nobody will start hacking up sequins like last night. Sometimes the poodles decide they just want to eat the sequins off the floor, which I always seem to have them on the floor in my studio or the little video annex off of my studio. So I'm super excited tonight. I have some things that I want to show you guys that I've been playing around with. So I am definitely a mixed media kind of card maker. I like to put a lot of stuff on my cards. And not necessarily, this is really loud for me, really loud. However, so this is a card that I did about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, something like that, 2 months ago. And if you look here, you can see that there's a lot of mixed media going on here. A lot of die cutting, some stamping, and even some watercoloring and Copic coloring, and some pencil coloring. So pretty much, if you name it, pretty much threw it at this card, right? All right. So right here, it's going to start off with this background. This is on black cardstock. So I made the background. This is a 5x7 card. And then you can see how I used our new gingerbread house stamp and dies to decorate it. And then I really like the flourish behind the gingerbread house. That is part of the design when I designed this gingerbread house stamp. Now, I hate to say this, we're not going to be focusing on this tonight. We're going to be focusing on the techniques that I use, some of the techniques that I use to make this card. So here I have one that so when I do things, I usually create sequence. I don't know where they come from. I usually do one, if I'm doing a big project like this, that's going to take, a whole day to work on, I usually work on 2 of them at a time. That way, I have a version that I like and a version that's kind of, I like it, but and also if I if I mess up on one of them, I already have one. She is eating sequins. I already have one that is already stamped and kind of like halfway through the process, so I don't have to start all over again. So this is the one I ended up using on the card, but I have this beauty left. So the other day, interactive cards are so popular. Look, she's going to hack on sequence again. Sorry, Daisy is eating sequence. So the other day we were talking, Jen and I, Sarah and I were talking about just trends and things like that. We're always trying to figure out what's best for you guys, what things are popular. For me, it's always about what's the best value. It's usually like what's on trend, what you guys like, what's popular. Because what's popular doesn't mean what's on trend. Believe it or not, there is a difference. Also, time tested, time value over time is usually what I'm pretty much focusing on. Yes. So we were talking about interactive cards. My issue with interactive cards is the dies are so expensive, right? And a lot of times you can just use a scoring board and your paper trimmer and a little bit of math to figure out how to make something. So that's what I did the other day. So I wanted to share this with you. So this is a box. So a lot of companies have these boxes. They call them in the box, out the box, just boxes, right? Where you use them to like build a scene and then it stands up, right? But it folds flat. So I was playing around with it the other day, and I'm gonna be honest, I went ahead and designed one about halfway, right? And then it dawned on me, you know what? Golly, couldn't I just do that with a piece of paper and a paper trimmer? And that's what I did. So this is meant to be a box that you build a scene inside, right? So I needed something for my house to build on, but that still would fold flat enough to send through the mail, so you save on shipping. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect, because anything that is done by hand is not going to be perfect. Anything done by a human, right? So this is what I'm going to show you guys tonight. We're not going to finish anything tonight. I just want to show you how I made this. And if you look at it, this is completely covered with Luxe, Arctic Fox Luxe. And guys, this is just regular paper on the inside. It's not even like a mixed media paper. And I basically created 2 columns and then glued them together. Now this one I think is a little too tall for, it's good, but it's a little too tall. So I'm going to show you how to do this, and then we're going to play around with our mixed media products and using them in conjunction with Copic markers and alcohol ink and rubbing alcohol. So we're going to get like really dirty tonight, and we're not going to complete anything, but I'm going to show you a whole bunch of things, I guess more or less that have been on my mind. So these are some, I die cut these from some backgrounds that we made on live not that long ago. And then I took them and I used alcohol ink, and then since alcohol ink stays wet a little while, I went ahead and used some foil, regular foil, just foil, that you normally would use with sticky, like, you run it through the, no, it's the kind that you don't run through the heat laminator. It's the one that you can use with like Thermowebs. So Thermowebs works very well, or Spellbinders or Crafter's Companion. So you can see here, it was actually sticky in the center. So I took some foil and laid the foil down and pulled it up. And look how fun this is. So it started off really plain with this Luxe. So this is Luxe right here, Arctic Fox Luxe, this product, the one that's super thick with lots and lots of glitter. And I knew this was going to work because Luxe, once it dries, it is like a plastic. Okay, it's not really plastic, but it has properties like plastic. So I knew that alcohol ink, especially Copic markers, alcohol markers, were going to dry any type of alcohol markers, not just Copic. I knew that the markers were going to dry on top of the Luxe because it takes on like a plastic, and you can actually, it makes the paper firmer, and you can see, I mean, this is like regular paper. You can still tear it and die cut it, but it does give you much more of a resistance. So I knew that because of those properties, it was going to stiffen the paper, and then I'd be able to add some type of alcohol ink to it to give it more character. Okay, so that's what I did. I played with these right before we came on. These right here, and these looked just like this before I added any type of ink to them. Okay, now guys, it has to be, this one actually is covered in velvet. Hold on a second. Let me find one with Luxe. Okay, here's a leaf that I covered in orange Luxe. It's going to have to be, because now it's got a plastic feel to it. So it's not going to, dye ink or pigment ink or reactive ink, any of those are not going to stick to the Luxe. You have to use something that you can use on plastic. So alcohol ink or StazOn. You can even use your StazOn pads and just like rub your StazOn pad over this. And after you do that, you can like just spritz it. This is rubbing alcohol, but you could also use Copic blender, or you can even use Ranger's alcohol ink blender. Okay, so the main difference, we have a question. What's the difference between Luxe and Glaze? Okay, technically Luxe, it is called Paper Glaze Luxe. Paper Glaze itself, Paper Glaze is slick and shiny. Okay, and it's very, very smooth and creamy when it goes on. Luxe is going to dry like this. So Luxe is, let me just open it and show you. Luxe is super thick. Oh, no. Luxe is super thick. And because it's filled, it's like glitter infused, okay? It's not the same properties as Glaze, but you actually can use alcohol ink on top of regular paper glaze, just like the Luxe, because it's going to give you that plastic kind of property. So if you see how thick Luxe is, I don't have, for some reason, Matt will come back in here. I'll show that to you later. He doesn't have, I don't have a mixed media spatula in front of me for some reason. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And I want to show you some things that I want to do. So first, let's go ahead and put our box together. So I'm going to be using regular, so this is just regular cardstock, okay? It is probably like 110. Oh, thank you, Jen, for explaining that. So it is like 110, so it's pretty thick. And I have trimmed it down. It was 8.5 by 11, but I trimmed it down to 8 by 10. Why 8 by 10? Because then I can score it at 2 inches and it's just easier, right? Why make life harder on yourself when you can just go with every 2 inches, because 2 is an even number. So 2 will go even into an 8 by 10, where it will give you issues, or make you have to use more math, I should say, if you left it 8.5 by 11. So in here, I'm just using a scoring board, and I have a Teflon bone folder. And I'm going to come in here, and look, I'm showing you how to make this box. So this is the first thing I'm going to do. Oh, no worries, girl. So look, right here, I'm going to score, and I'm going to score hard, because the paper is not going to rip, every 2 inches, okay? So since it's only 10 inches long, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 scores. That's it. It always amazes me how important a scoring board is to card making or crafting, but you use it very little. It's one of those things, you use it to get something perfect and then you just move on, right? So I'm going, before I accordion fold it though, I'm going to cut this in half. Because, so I do this a lot. A lot of times, I know some people would probably have cut this piece of paper in half before they scored it. I do the opposite. I actually prefer to score it. That way I'm scoring one time. And the larger the piece of paper that you score or cut, the more likely you are to get it scored straight or scored straight or cut straight. So I always try to cut things in a bigger piece or score things in a bigger piece. So again, let me just make sure. I'm going to cut this. So in here, this is the 8-inch. So I need to put this on 4 because I want to cut it in half. Because this I find is really tall, and I just want to see what I like if I cut this in half. So I'm going to put it on 4. So this one's going to be, well, actually, no. I'm going to do it again. So this one was 4 inches. Now I'm going to cut this again, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it at, it doesn't have to be even anymore. So let me do it at 2.5, because it no longer needs to be in even increments. So I'm going to go 2.5. So I've got 1, 2.5. Now I'm going to take the other one and cut it also at 2.5. So all I'm doing here is I'm just using my scoring board, my trimmer and my scoreboard to cheat and not have to buy a die. Because sometimes, you know, a little bit of math is a good thing. So I have these 2 pieces. So I'm just going to accordion fold them. Pray that I scored them correctly and straight. Okay. All right. So now we have these 2 pieces, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to make them into like 2 columns, square columns, okay? All right, so we want to first, look, I've only done this once, so you're going to watch me fumble along with this. So, accordion fold them. So we could just do this, okay? Literally, this. Fold it like this. So we took it and I accordion folded it, and now I'm just going to turn it into basically a cube, an empty cube. I'm going to use liquid glue because I find when it comes to something like this, where you want it to stand up to test to it for a long time, I like to use liquid glue. I want to get it all over so it's nice and sealed. Okay, and then I'm just going to fold this over, making sure. So this time, I'm not going to go all the way perfect up against this line. I'm going to leave a little bit of space. And you know, guys, this is only the second time I've done this. So I'm just really, I just want to leave a little bit of space this time, because I found that with this one, when I tried to lay it flat, do you see how it kind of did like this? It kind of like, it didn't lay completely flat. So this time I want to see if I just leave a little space between the edge of the card and the fold to see if that will help it lay flat, more flat. That's the, yes. And there's also some, I think there's a bird's nest outside my window, because last night when I was live, I heard a bird squawking, and it just did it again. It's not a cat, it's a bird that's right outside this window. So now I'm going to do the same thing. Fold it to where it's a cube. And you know, I'm thinking you could just use a longer piece of paper and only have 1 box for this instead of having 2. But, you know, for some reason I thought of 2 when I was originally doing this. So I was working on this the other day, and I sent a picture to Jen and Sarah. And I'm like, hey guys, look, I have a new idea. I have an idea for something. And they're like, yeah, that looks interesting. I'm sure it'll be great when you're done. You know. So again, I'm going to try, I'm not going to put it all the way edge to the fold. I'm going to leave it, I'm trying to make sure I leave just about the same amount of space. Whoops. Yeah, about the same amount of space, just because I want to see if that helps it fold better. Yes. So let's see. So what are you guys doing on this eventful Saturday night? Matt and I never go anywhere on Saturday nights or Fridays or any night of the week, actually. We're homebodies. if we go somewhere, it's always usually family. All right, so now that I've made my 2 boxes, I'm going to glue them together. And actually, I'm not going to, since I'm going to be covering this with Luxe, the Luxe hides all mistakes. All the, see how it's just, and I actually used it first with this craft paper. I don't know why I grabbed craft paper, but I did. But this time I made sure I grabbed white. I don't think I want to glue them. Normally I would glue the 2 ugly sides, the sides together like this, but I think I'm not, I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to glue 2 nice sides together. Just because 2 sides that are, you know, solid, a solid surface is always going to hold better than a, even though it's technically not broken anymore, it's still a surface that's not solid. So since it's not solid, I'm going to use 2 pieces that have not been broken or cut, you could say, 2 sides. So now I'm just going to stick these 2 together like so. If I was at my desk and I had remembered, I would grab 2 clips. Let me just go grab them real quick. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. I decided I'd go ahead and grab a mixed media palette while I'm there. Okay, so these kind of clips. See these clips? So I'm going to take this clip and I'm just going to pinch it right there. Then I'm going to turn around to the other side after I've pushed these 2 sides together. And I'm going to pinch this side together as well. And that just gives it a little bit more stability. So you see how simple that was? And now we have our own little box, right? So we can build a scene inside of our box. So this one you can see is about, it's 1.5 inches shorter. This one is 1.5 inches shorter than this one. And it's made from 1 piece of paper and a scoreboard, right? All right, so you guys are catching up on your videos, you're relaxing, cleaning your desk. Oh, me too, right? Jen, mixed media has always been a mystery until it's finished. Oh, yes. Sorry, very much so. So here, this is done. Now, what I did to add the Luxe, I'm going to show you real quick. I went ahead and added Luxe, and I just went grab a knife. And I'm going to admit, you know what? I'm not going to do this one white this time. I'm going to do this one brown. Because I'm kind of like, I haven't done anything for the fall yet. So this one is called Coffee Beans. And this is brown. And it's a beautiful, perfect shade of brown. So Luxe is very thick. Do you see how thick it is? Look. Like super, super thick. And I want to I'm going to cover my entire box with this because it is so much easier than trying to use pattern paper. So I admit it, there are times that I will use a mixed media product because it's easier than fighting with pattern paper and worrying about getting it perfect. So all I did literally is scoop and spread. That's it. That is it. Now, when it came to the parts where they were glued together like this seam, I did make sure that I had the seams nice and flush with the rest of it. So I did put a little bit more where the seams are. And I just basically just slapped it on there. However smooth or puffy you want it to be is totally up to you. The white one, this one that I did first, I made it very puffy because, you know, it's supposed to look like snow. So I wanted it to be as puffy as possible. So do you see how thick this Luxe is? And it's glitter infused. So this is a product that, because it's so thick, wherever you place it, it's going to stay. So it does not self-level, okay? So Glitz, our paper glaze Glitz, is more fluid than Luxe. So that's usually the next question I get is what's the difference between Luxe and Glitz? Paper Glitz is very fluid and it self-levels, okay, which is like fabulous for making your own paper, or because it's also thinner, it will die cut a lot easier, okay? Yeah, everybody likes the Luxes, the paper glaze, but yeah, no. Hi, Holly. I missed you last night. Were you here last night? I noticed that you weren't there. Maybe you were, and I don't know. The comments were kind of crazy last night. So you see, this is all I did. So however thick you want it to be, or however thin, I always like it to be just a little puffy, but that's just me, you know, because I like it to. So you see, this could be my grass, right? For my, or it could just be a nice fall color. So you see how easy that is? Done. Yeah, chocolate frosting. It's really a pretty color. So then I would do that on all sides. If you wanted to do the inside of it, you could, but I'm going to use this to build a scene. So I'm not sure if I want to do the inside or not. Plus, you know, you don't want to waste your mixed media products. They're not exactly free, right? Okay, so this is going to sit. This is probably going to take, to be absolutely 100% dry, I'd give it 12 hours. So I'm going to put this to the side, okay, and clean up just for a second. And then I'm going to show you some tricks that are amazing with our products, with our mixed media products. So if you weren't here in the beginning, I was talking about the reason we're going to be using Luxe, and you can also use this technique with paper glaze, because both of them will, when they dry, they take on a plasticky, hey girl, so they both take on like a plastic feel when they dry. Luxe and paper glaze, and Glitz too, actually. But this is going to work most efficiently with Luxe, and the reason why is because it has texture. Paper glaze itself is a very slick and smooth surface. So yes, you can use alcohol inks on paper glaze. However, Luxe is going to be probably the best to accept the alcohol ink because it has texture to it. Like, you know, the glitter makes it have texture. So this is the little box, okay, that I just showed you. You saw how simple that was to make. So we're going to focus on making things to work on my box. We're not going to finish this tonight because, you know, I don't ever finish anything. I'm slow. Okay, so I went ahead and I die cut this right here, this die, okay, and it's coated with paper glaze. It's not paper Luxe, it's paper glaze. Now this die, the reason why I designed this die like this is it doesn't have a bottom to it. So the die looks like this, okay, and you just die cut it, and it's however long you want it to be. It's up to you. So you see here, when I die cut this one, I cut it across the bottom. Here, it's a little bit longer, okay? So these two are made of paper velvet, and velvet is very matte finish. It's shimmery, but it's not glossy, and there's no glitter in it. So it gives you a totally different texture. This is paper glaze. And if you notice, do you see how slick the paper glaze is? It's pearlescent, okay? It is pearlescent, and it's very, very thick. So slick, not thick. So you can see it really is a difference between, and if you see, the Luxe is thicker and it's got glitter in it, whereas the paper glaze is very slick. Now I did put texture on this. So when I did this piece of paper, which it looked like this before I die cut it, I went back and I must have done this on a gel plate because it gave it all this texture. Normally paper glaze will not have a lot of texture to it if you just spread it on with, you know, a palette knife. But I must have done this on a gel press, like a gel press print, put the paper glaze down and pulled it up, and it gave it texture. But I want to show you this. This right here, if you see, This is Luxe. And actually, I did this live with you guys. So this right here were some of the first Luxe that we released. And we are going to release more colors of Luxe. But we couldn't get more glitter in for a couple of months. It's just kind of how it is sometimes. Hi, Peggy. Hello, Brenda. So here you go, guys. So this is Paper Luxe. And you can see the difference. One is super, super glittery. And then the other one is shiny and pearlescent. All right, so what we're going to do now is I did die cut this also. This right here is a combination of paper glaze and paper velvet. And the paper glaze is going to help the paper velvet grab onto some alcohol ink. And these are the 3 that I did earlier to show the example. So here you see I used paper Luxe or velvet. And then I did some foiling on top of it after I use alcohol inks. Okay, so let's go ahead and let me show you. So let's do something to this green one because I really think the green is going to go, I'm not going to let it cover my whole box, but it might go like behind the box. I might chop it up and put it in the box. I just know that I probably... I don't know. I'm thinking this house is going to go in the front of this, but the white on the white, I'm not really sure. So I don't want to cover my box up too much, but I might, who knows? Who knows? Maybe it might be more like this. I don't know. But it don't listen, Karen. I'm sending this to my stepmother, who, you know, she's like my mom, more or less, and she loves everything that I do. And if I send her something, she keeps it forever. So I knew that she would appreciate this, and she would put it away for every Christmas, and put it away with her Christmas decorations every year, and then pull it back out. So this is what I'm thinking probably will end up on the front of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke a hole in it and find some kind of, charm that I have laying around from God knows what, and put that on the front of it just to decorate the front. And then we're going to work on what we're going to put on the inside. At least I think. So I pulled this out because this is also a shade of blue, right? So let's see what we can do with this one. And this one is a combination of glaze and velvet. So this is paper glaze Huckleberry, and then I used it with some of the paper glaze velvet. Now, paper glaze velvet has less plastic properties to it than Luxe or paper glaze. So I did play around with just allowing the alcohol ink on the velvet, and it stayed wet. So I think what's going to end up happening with this is we're going to end up using it with foil. So let's go ahead. Let's do one first on, yes, I have jewelry box sitting right here. So right here, I just cut open a bag because I don't like to make a mess. I like to get rid of it. And I couldn't find any of my covers, Teflon things. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to grab, and I'm going to use these inexpensive Nuvo alcohol markers because I'm not going to use my good Copics just because I want to save those tips. But these are like really inexpensive. So I'm just going to come and just add some color to this on top. This is velvet, okay? So this is paper glaze velvet. So it has much less of a plastic property to it. So I'm just taking some different blues that are really close to each other. Let's see if I can find. I also have these Altenew ones out. And I like having a cheaper set of alcohol markers because then I don't have to worry about the tips. I can do techniques with them and not worry that I'm just going to totally destroy my nibs. I would never do this with expensive Copics, but these are much less inexpensive. All right, so now what I'm going to do is, this is rubbing alcohol, okay? So I'm just going to mist it with rubbing alcohol. And what's going to happen is that alcohol ink is going to move and kind of start to blend and play. Do you see that? See what it's doing? So it's going to end up something similar to this. So this is like what? 4 blues. I think it's kids that I hear outside. So this is like 4 different blues. Now, I can tell you it already is starting to get sticky. So what I'm going to do is, because I want to use foil on this, I'm going to put this one to the side and just let that dry for a little while. So that's velvet, okay? That's velvet with rubbing alcohol. Let me just dry this real quick. Now let's see what happens. See how easy that was? Now let's work with this one. That's paper glaze with a little bit of velvet inside of it, okay? So I'm going to take the darkest blue. And guys, you don't even need really to know the names of these markers because they're just dark blues. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add, I'm going to scribble more or less, some of this dark blue on the edges. And yes, could you go get, there's so many different products out there. But I enjoy playing with the things and seeing what's going to happen. So there's some dark blue. Let me add some of this light blue also. And as you can hear it scratching across the surface. And now I want to add some black because black is my favorite color when I'm working with alcohol inks. It doesn't necessarily always have to stay. It's not going to stay black because as soon as I add any type of blender to it or alcohol ink, it's going to start diluting its color. But I just want to add some black to it because it's going to give it some much more depth. All right. I know you're going to freak out, but let's play. Let's see what happens. It's going to work. All right, so let's now take this and spray the rubbing alcohol on it. Oh, and we're going to get movement, okay? We're going to see movement. And I am putting quite a bit. Rubbing alcohol is cheap, right? Whew, it's also very strong. Let me turn the fan on. Tonight's show, Nicole passes out because she used too much rubbing alcohol. Just joking. I'm fine. All right. So we can move it around. Actually, taking it and flicking it on the back will also help. You see, it helps it move. And it will give you a much more, you can grab a baby wipe and come in here and you can tap on the parts that you don't like. Or you just want to remove some color. So look at that. Wasn't that easy? Look how cool that is. I mean, it's just so simple. I don't like, and see, look, it's already sticky. It's sticking to my baby wipe. Okay, so now that it's sticky, let's add some foil. Okay, so I grabbed, so this foil is either from 3 places. It's either Crafter's Companion, Spellbinders, or Spellbinders, Crafter's Companion, and I can't remember the other company at the moment. So I'm going to come in here and look, ugly side down, okay? And I'm just going to tap and then pull off. And look at that. Do you see how awesome that is? Obviously, you don't want to hide everything that you've done. So you want to be selective of where you put your foil. If it doesn't stick, that's because it's either still too wet or it dried. But as you see, do you see it's grabbing that foil? Look how cool. Isn't that fun? And it's so easy. And this right here, you see this piece of paper? This is what I die cut this from. This was the off whenever I was working on gel prints for the World Card Making Day. This was the off paper that I was like rubbing the excess on. That's all that is. So it gave me all this fun, funky look that you see. That's just because it's the off print. So you do have to control yourself, okay? Because after a while, you'll end up with much more foil than what you anticipated, and you'll end up not having your original background. So look how pretty that is. Isn't that gorgeous? And look, it's already starting to dry. I do want to make sure I get some. I love it on the edges. And this is just a combination. This is paper glaze and velvet. Now, okay. So you see, I need to stop now because I'm getting, see how much, look at that. Isn't that cool? Hey, Peggy, this is so easy. Okay, so we're going to put this to the side. And that, this was paper glaze and paper velvet. Like most, 30, I would say 3/4 paper glaze and 1/4 paper velvet. So it has much more properties of paper glaze than paper velvet. Now this one is all paper velvet, and it actually is already dry. We could stop here. Look how pretty that is. But let's see if it's still, it is still sticky. So I'm just going to come on top and just put, oh, look at that. Just a little, just a little. And I try to use the same, you know, I leave it on the roll, the foil. I know some people would probably cut it off, but I find with this technique, it's much easier to leave it on the roll. And then also, I'm not wasting all this one piece. I can just keep going back and touching on the foil. So that one is done. Look how cool that is. And that, guys, we just did that in no time whatsoever. This is why I always say, keep your spares, okay? This, don't throw this away. Don't throw this away. This was all the gunk when I was making pieces like large pieces like this. This was just the extra left over on my mixed media spatula, and all I did was scrape it off onto the paper, an excess piece of paper. All right, so let's look at, let's do another one. Let's do this one. So this is paper velvet again. So it has much less plastic properties. So it's going to look much more like distress ink blending with the velvet, I guess you could say. Like this one. Excuse me. Or here, you can see it looks much more like a distressed blend than this, which looks much more like you alcohol ink colored it. So this one is velvet too. Let's see. You know what? Let's try this one. Let's try this one. Okay, so this one is not on cardstock. It's on paper. It was made with just regular copy paper, and it's beautiful just the way it is. But just imagine how cool it's going to look with some foil and added color to it. So I'm going to add, I think I'm just going to do black on this. And I'm just going to come in here and scribble. And all this is going to do is give it some depth, dimension, and add, probably easier if I just put it down, and add that foil, that fun, funky. So this is a piece of copy paper. And you can go back and look at the World Card Making Day video on our YouTube channel that shows you how I made all these pieces. Because usually I just did a session of gel pressing, and from there I ended up with, I think, like 20 sheets of paper, 20 sheets. So look at this. So now you can see the black is going to move around. It's going to play. And if you wanted to, you could turn it over and flick it on the back a little, and that kind of helps it move. So we're going to leave this one and let it dry just for a second, just while it just needs to dry a teeny little bit to get sticky. So while that's drying, let's work on some leaves. Okay, these are the leaves that I used, that I had colored the paper. Actually, these leaves are this. When I was doing this, I just rubbed it off, and these leaves are the ones that I die cut. And then I used alcohol markers on, and then added alcohol on top of it. So I have some that I have not done anything with that were sitting here. And I thought that would be fun for us to add some browns and green alcohol ink to this, and then come back on top of it and add some solution, whatever solution you want. So it could be, so the solution, I'm using alcohol ink, rubbing alcohol for in this bottle, but you can also use Copic blending solution or Ranger blending solution. Alcohol ink is just cheaper, you know, so that's usually what I grab first. And there are different properties. Alcohol ink behaves differently with this type of technique than the Ranger solution or the Copic blending. They all behave a little bit different. So I'm just coming in here and adding some color. Okay, nothing, I'm not being fabulous here, not coloring anything here. This one's yellow. It'll show up better. Just adding some color. Nothing fancy. No technique here, right? Just slap it on there. This is called Rich Mahogany. And again, I'm using my cheap alcohol ink markers. So guys, you can get a set of alcohol ink markers on Amazon for like 30 bucks. And it's more than enough color to do stuff like this. I would not use your expensive Copic markers or whatever brand you have that you would consider expensive, because I am running this over, that one's already done. I am running this marker over a glitter paper, which is not really something I would suggest as the best thing to do with your more expensive markers. So if you like this technique, go on Amazon and look up all their cheap sets, knockoffs that they have on there. Some of them are pretty good, but they're cheap. So they really don't work that great for coloring and blending, but they do work great for stuff like this. And you don't feel guilty about using them. All right. Let me add a little bit of black to this one. All right. Just a little bit of black. Okay. We're just going to, this one, let's see, is it drying? It is. So let me push these to the side. This one is drying. So while it's still sticky, I want to add some foil. So I'm going to go back with the silver. So it's kind of like, you know, you're cooking and you got to go to one pot and then stir the next one. Just got to wait for it to get sticky. Sometimes you can rub your fingers over it. You can even take a bone folder. Rub your bone folder over it. Oh, and look at that. Can y'all see that? Silver. Do y'all see that shine? The foil. So we took it from this and made this. You see the difference between them? This is from the same exact piece of paper. Exact piece of paper. And all we did was add the black and then put some rubbing alcohol mist on it, and it picked up the foil because it made it sticky. Isn't that cool? I hope you guys can see that. You see, oh, there's a good. You see all the foil? So this is what it looked like before. Very flat and matte. So this was a mixture of paint, regular paint, paper glaze, and paper velvet. There's no glitter. And then now all I did was add black alcohol ink with rubbing alcohol, let it dry for a few seconds, let it get sticky, and then voila, foil. All right, so let's go back to our leaves. All right, so we're just going to mist them all at one time. Oh, this one's already done. So we're just going to mist them with the rubbing alcohol. Don't stick your nose in it like I did a minute ago. So silly. And then this one's going to be amazing because it has that. So I'm just flicking it on the back because see how it helps it move into those veins? That way you don't get your hands too dirty, but just kind of like flicking it around. If you want, you could always come in with a baby wipe. Oops, is it sticky already? How are they doing? Just going to come in and touch them. Yep, they're getting sticky already. So you can stop here. You don't have to keep going with foil. I mean, but this is just another little fun technique that my mixed media products do, is that when you add a blending solution or rubbing alcohol to them, they will get sticky. So these are the ones that I did before on a live. And all this is, there's no foil. The exact same thing. This is the exact same piece of paper. All right. So let's see. What colors did I grab? We don't want to use silver on that. Let's see. Let's go with like a different. Okay, I might have some foil. I like foil. So let's just grab some different colors. And I purposely do buy from different companies because they all have different shades. So there, I have a gold. But you know what I really like? I really like the matte gold. Matte gold. Ooh, and a rose, a pink, pink gold. Rose pink. So let's see what these do. Oh, they're sticky. So I'm going to, this one is not even yet. I don't know about you guys, but does it annoy you they put a piece of tape right here and mess up some of your foil? Okay. So this is a matte foil. I don't know what company it is. I'm sorry. I just stick them all in this bucket together. So let's see what's going to happen. Are they dry? They might still be too wet. Yeah. See how they're leaving moisture on the foil? They're still too wet. They're still too wet. So even though, see, you can tell because it put the alcohol ink on the back of the foil, which it doesn't mess the foil up. And it did take some of it, but we'll come back to it and see. All right. So let's look at how this one do. Is it still drying? Oh, look. So let's look at this one. Wow, this one looks really good. So this is going to be used in conjunction with my box and the snowflakes. I'm going to build. Now, all these snowflakes have outline. Slip my hand line. They all have shadow dies. So you can also die cut the shadows out of, I'm going to die cut them probably out of tissue paper, deli paper, some kind of flimsy paper that's going to, and I'm going to bling them up to make it like a big poofy flower kind of like on top. So look how cool that is. Isn't that fun? Okay, so are they dry yet? Yeah, some of them are dry. Okay, so let's try to do this one at a time this time. So you could do it just like this. Just where you're letting it, oh, there we go. Ooh. I do find the matte is sometimes a little harder, the matte foil, sometimes a little harder to come off. Just, it probably has it obviously has a different property to it when they make it. So this is oh, look at that. Rose pink. I mean rose gold. Yeah, it's coming out. Okay, let's see this big one. Rub it on there. Oh, it's pretty. All right, guys. Ah, there we go. You see it? It picked up that foil right there. I hate that tape. It wastes. Yes. Oh, it is. And yeah, it really annoys. I guess I'm being negative. I don't mean to be negative, but it does. Why do they have to put that piece of tape? And look, it goes forever. It wastes a big chunk. It's not just like, because the tape is here, so it's like this much that you're wasting, right? Foil is too expensive for that. All right, guys. So I think that's about it for tonight that I wanted to show you. Just wanted to show you all the beautifulness that you can make with just playing around with our mixed media products. So tonight we used paper glaze with the alcohol, and you saw how it gets sticky. We used paper velvet. Paper velvet worked well, except it did give us more of a distressed watercolored look with the alcohol ink, and it was really sticky, which worked well for the foil. And then we used it on top of Luxe. Okay. And remember, we also did it on top of this, which was a combination of paper glaze and paper velvet. And then let's see about our little box. Oh, yep, it's starting to dry. So I would say it's dry enough for me to turn this box and do the sides, right? I could do the sides. I'm going to wait till tomorrow to do the back. But you see why I left and I put the ugly sides here? Because they're not going to show, because I'm going to make sure I put lots of Luxe right in there to make sure it hides those seals. All right, so I hope you learned something new tonight. We didn't actually complete anything, but this is how I craft. I sit down and make a whole bunch of stuff, play around, and then I end up with like a pile of goodness like this. And then from here, I have things left over from previous cards. And then from here, I have a pile and I pull it out and I make a project. So that's about it, guys. I hope you have a good night and somebody learned something tonight and had fun. I hope you have a good evening. You're very welcome. Bye, guys.